Hello everyone and welcome to part 4 of the Tamiya Super Avante video build. In the last video we assembled most of the front end, the steering, front gearbox, and the lower suspension arms. In this video we wrap up the front end, assembling and installing the front shocks, rotating shock mount, and the remaining parts of the front suspension. Alrighty, let's get to it. Let's start off the build by opening the front shocks bag. To help lubricate them, add a drop or two of shock fluid to the O-rings prior to installation. Note the direction of these spacers. The wider end of it should be toward the shock body. Follow the same build procedure for the other shock. There is no set measurement, but do make sure the spacing here between the two shocks is the same. Fill the shocks to the top with fluid, then plunge the shock shaft a few times to release any air from under the piston. Set the shock aside for a few minutes so any air bubbles can rise to the top. Grab the shock in a paper towel, then add more fluid to get it to the top. Take the shock bladder and roll it on top of the shock, pushing any extra fluid out one side. Right about here is where my late night build session got the best of me. I put the shock springs and perches together without looking at the instructions and messed them up a bit. Not to worry though, the light bulb went on a few steps from now and I made the correction. I've included an inset of the correct shock assembly. To correctly set the angle of the ball post per the instructions, insert the body clip in the hole and twist. Don't forget this step, it is key for later on in the build. And don't forget to set the second ball post orientation as well. These little black O-rings keep the screws in place when you loosen the upper deck to install your battery. Per the manual, add a light dab of E6000 or similar to the little black O-rings to help keep them in place. Measure this steering link to 28 millimeters. Then measure this one to 22 millimeters. Yep, at this point I still haven't quite figured out the shocks yet. And figured out my shock issue. Alright, time to get back to business. The aluminum glass tape is used to help keep the servo wire down and out of the way. This is optional, but highly suggested. When lowering and attaching the shock tray, make sure the steering link feeds under the shock tray arm. There is no set measurement to these push rods, but do take a moment to make sure they are the same length. Per the instructions, cut one of the little red bushings in half. However, be careful not to cut yourself. Tamiya has us installing steering stops to reduce the amount of steering throw. Since I like a lot of steering, I'm starting off by installing the screw but not the two plastic spacers. Pay close attention to these assembly steps. It's easy to install the parts in the wrong holes, backwards, or even upside down. line up the right side steering assembly and capture with a 27mm hinge pin. Add a light dab of anti-wear grease to the pins of the dog bones before installing. The suspension felt a bit tight when I moved it up and down, so I decided to remove the dual red bushings in the diff out drives and reassemble. This helped free up the suspension quite a bit without hindering the action of the dog bones. These mounts are for the front fenders. Some might leave these off, but I think they're quite cool. Alrighty, great job! Thanks for following along with us during part 4 of our Tamiya Super Avante build. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of future videos in this series. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.